Hello, welcome to the Chief Healthcare Officer podcast, where we bring thought leaders in healthcare to discuss leadership, innovation, and the future of medicine. Today, I have a pleasure of speaking with Professor Antonio Vidal-Puig, and he asks me to call him Antonio, and that's what I'm going to do. A world-renowned expert in metabolism, obesity research, and scientific leadership. Antonio is a professor at the University of Cambridge, an honorary consultant at the Edinburgh Hospital, and then the deputy director of the Wellcome Trust MRC Institute of Metabolic Science. His groundbreaking work has shaped how we understand metabolic diseases, particularly through the adipose tissue expandability hypothesis and brown fat research. We will touch to this brown fat research part. And nowadays everyone is talking about obesity. Beyond research, he has demonstrated exceptional leadership, especially during the COVID time when he co-led an initiative to secure the PPE for the frontliners. It was an amazing project, and he dealt with China, and we will listen the story about it. Today, we will discuss his leadership journey, how team size affects innovation, how he navigated crisis leadership, and his vision for the future of healthcare. Welcome, Antonio. It's a pleasure having you.
So thank you very much. I think it's a real pleasure to have the opportunity to meet your listeners and also to contribute to try to. I'm very humbled by the fact that you are very interested in my record, in much better in science, and I will be trying to communicate this in the best way possible to your audience. So thank you very much for that.
It's my pleasure having you. I'm just trying to bring amazing people from my network, so then we can let our audiences to hear their stories and to learn from me. Just before we get started, could you please just introduce yourself? Let us hear your introduction from your side, then we can start the first chapter.
Well, my name is Antonio Vidal. I'm originally from Spain, where I started my medical career, and then I moved to the States. I spent 7 years in Boston. And this is where I transitioned from my clinical background to the more scientific background. And after 7 years in the States, then I moved to UK to initiate my academic career in Europe. At that time, I thought UK would be Europe, but we know what happened after that. And then since then, I have established my career and my family in Cambridge University, working in obesity and diabetes, and still well connected in Europe. I retain a lot of links with Asia, which is my passion. And I have some links also with the Arabic countries. And I hope through this postcard, I will be able to have access and to connect better with your community there. So, as I said, I'm very interested in foreign policy. I like to really navigate and work with different multicultural environments. And it is one of my passions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And it's a great pleasure having you here. Antonio, you have built an impressive career balancing scientific research, clinical practice, and leadership. And you have led a research group at the Cambridge, mentored young scientists, and even pursued an executive MBA to enhance your leadership skills, which is amazing. How you found time of all these things. That's fantastic. Can you please share what leadership means to you in the context of healthcare and medical research?
Well, I think healthcare and medical research are two different beasts for me. But I think I have an advantage because I've been working at every single layer of the process. Starting from medical school, then clinical training, and going from the emergency room to the clinical real work, and then I started in research and going from more translational research to more fundamental research, so that you cover the whole spectrum of this. And this is an evolution. I think I've been blessed by not doing the same thing again and again and again and again, but actually having an evolution. And also I like to study. Everything I do, I sort of try to understand and scrutinize. For me, going to the business school at a moment when it was relatively late in my career, according to the expectations, for me, I remember thinking about this as a way to put a frame to my intuition, because I have learned things by intuition, but I wanted to have what we call in medicine evidence base. So then that's why I thought the business school in some way reassured me that some of the things that were from my intuitions and some new tricks that I learned from there, I could bring them into the clinical and the research and apply this into a different context. Because keep in mind that in the business school, there are not that many people with academic backgrounds in biomedicine. I mean, at that time, people don't think that, they think you have other things to do. And in my opinion, this type of experience could make your academic research, in this case, better and with a larger insight about this. So that's why I did that.
No, I mean, you did it very well. And definitely, I mean, research is an area which we should work more, I believe, because at the moment, what we see in the healthcare is all about to continue what has been researched, and people do not spend enough time or energy or money to make further researches, which we all need. I mean, when was the last antibiotics introduction? I mean, ages ago now.
I think when you look at medicine, there is an issue about academic medicine. I mean, the progression I can see in clinical medicine is to become a blue-collar job. And I think it's very important that a percentage of these individuals will enter in an academic role, because they are going to be the leaders informing the profession about what is happening. And when you see technology progressing really fast, complexity being overwhelming, you have the risk of leaving clinical medicine a bit far behind, or even for the people engaging on this not being interested, because it's very difficult to keep with the pace of knowledge and technology. And I think I've been an advocate of trying to identify amongst, you need clinicians to do the real work with the patients and being safe and taking care of them. But you need a percentage of these individuals that are driven by curiosity and research to become academic leaders that will pass the right information to the doctors in some way. And this is going to become a problem, because we are not developing that.
I'm a firm believer of the academic care, and wherever I go and wherever I operate hospitals, I always try to emphasize this point, because there is one thing very important. People today, they want to work in an academic environment. They want to continue to learn. They want to have some opportunity to hear new things in their hospital. If we do not have this academic flavor, you're becoming one of the other hospitals, and that's not something attractive anymore, especially for the young generation. We need to bring the academic flavor into the hospitals. We need to bring the research. But how to bring this is the big question here.
Well, I've been blessed because when I was in Spain, I was in good hospitals, but they were normal hospitals. And then when I started my career, and by serendipity, I ended up in Boston, in one of the top ones, is when that struck me, in the sense that, okay, there is a different way of contemplating medicine. And that involved bringing together the academic setting, the research, and the clinical work. This synergy really results in an increased excellence, also attracts the people. I mean, I'm not in England because I like the weather, and I'm not here because I'm here because the attractiveness of a place where you attract people from everywhere that are driven by the same objective. And then maybe it's very difficult to maintain many different places at a very high level, but at least instead of developing many of these sites everywhere, you want to bring the people who really can engage on that from wherever they are, to bring them in and grow them. And then some of them, they go back to their original places, and they can pollinize that. They can really identify the talent, they can mentor the talent, they can sponsor the talent, and then they can really maintain this pool of people that communicate all the innovation and the research and the evidence-based science. They can connect this with the practice.
Indeed. Indeed, very true. I mean, I think everyone is looking for this kind of way, because the conventional healthcare operation is over. I mean, we're looking for healthcare operation which works also for the innovation, which makes the life of the patients easier, and the life of the practitioners easier, so then we can offer better and better care, including the researchers. So let's move to the innovation a bit. And I read your, piece in Financial Times, which was talking about the article you authored in a magazine called Nature. And then you were talking about the team size over there. You were saying that the smaller teams can also create groundbreaking discoveries. What do you mean with this?
Well, Financial Times allowed you to write things in a very short format because
Indeed.
I mean, this probably was an oversimplification of something which is more complex. Okay, I mean, as part of my other life, I have a team of people that I met at the business school, some academics, some business students, and then we have embarked in a program of research which has to do initially with risk factors for failure in research-intensive institutions. Okay, I was really worried about failure as a paradigm. So that means I am the clinical and biomedical scientist. I have a guy who is another faculty who's an expert in business model innovation, which then you bring this together and we can get something new. And this is how we end up publishing this paper in Nature, where I try to learn from failure, but I realized that people don't like to talk about failure. They like to talk about success. So then I changed the plan and I focus in success. I say, okay, let's see if we learn something from success. And you learn sometimes that people successful, they are in a defensive attitude to try to sustain it. So that was very informative. And then from this conversation, you get to this conclusion of the size and how important this is for innovation. And then this is more complex. It depends on the question. If you have a question that requires is labor intensive, a lot of information, a lot of integration, then you need many people focus in a single direction to result in a big product. However, the small size, and particularly if it's relatively diverse, allows you to take risk, because the worst thing that can happen is that nothing happens. And by doing this, you increase the chance that you may hit something that will be very innovative. If you want to innovate, you need to accept waste. You need to accept that many times you're going to fail. And by having multiple small groups, each one of them in some way being very innovative, then you may have a high rate of attrition, but the products that you get are very unique and innovative. If you succeed on that, you may need to upscale. And for this, you need a larger group.
Very true.
But for the innovation, I think high quality and smaller teams may be really working better. And that is the claim that the small is better, but say, okay, depends the question. If you are going for something extremely complex, there are institutes where you need 50, 60, 70 people working in the same problem and very coordinated. But the question is different.
Yeah, I agree. Now I get better, insight about it. Now I hear you. And in fact, we have covered the innovation in the healthcare earlier in one of our episodes, and that the guest was the person who has created the Siemens Healthineers Innovation Group. He was also talking to us about a focused team rather than a huge team to sort the issues and then get the innovation quicker. In the hospitals and in the healthcare, definitely we need to also create such things. And I was been meeting with our nursing team earlier. So nurses, they have a lot of interest for this kind of projects. And most of the time, unfortunately, we see a nursing team as just the people to do the regular job in the hospital. But then if we can just attract them and giving them a chance with the small focused task forces, I believe these frontliners can be the main source of such innovations.
Yes, I mean, I think also you want to identify and retain and engage the best people you want in the hospital. And I think you can use innovation and empowering them with a specific type of research projects as a strategy, not only to get the output from the research, but actually to increase the loyalty of these individuals and the meaning of the jobs and the engagement with the jobs. Because I think what people like to do is to feel connected, autonomous, and then they want to have the safety to fail, and that's okay. And you don't want them to fail on the care of the patients, because for this you cannot afford this. But in this type of research or applied research in the context of the healthcare, this is an opportunity to really also increase the quality and prevent failure and so on. So I think I will encourage that. If not, people just go there, take the hours, leave, and under all the pressure they have, this is a recipe to lose the best talent that you may have. So I think also for retention is very important.
I fully agree with you, and we're living this every day. Let's go to the a time which we all had the difficulty, and then we have seen the highest number of digital health, the highest number of innovations, which was the COVID-19 time. Even though we all have been in the lockdowns, but then this time was amazing. Every day we were hearing a new thing. People started even producing ventilators at home, and then some other things, lots of issues. So, but at that time, you have an interesting story. I mean, your collaboration with China, the thing what you have made for the PPE initiative. Can you just give us some more insights from this?
I had an advantage because I was in China when this happened. So I was progressively leaving China, and I felt the pressure behind. So when I landed in UK, I remember that people in my lab thought I was a bit crazy, because they said, guys, this is serious, this is coming, and we need to be prepared. So the first thing that happened when I came back to UK is that actually UK, or through us, we supported the people in China that were connected with us because they were in the middle of the battle. That was before we were hit. Send them PPEs before they send us PPEs.
Really? I didn't know that. So UK sent PPEs to China at the beginning of this hit.
We had the link there, and we had our partners there, and they were struggling. And at that moment, they were feeling abandoned because everyone was leaving and all the international connectivity was being lost and so on. And at that time, we were in a position, I mean, we didn't supply China, it's too big for us, but we could supply the people that we knew a bit more.
Okay. Sure.
So then the problem evolved, and then we were hit by that here. And then we had already established a chain with people that were highly reputed, trustable, the risk completely, because they could find the proper suppliers there without any scam. And they were very interested in helping us. And that was part of reciprocity. In some way, this event, what helped us is to go from a transactional relationship to a trust-based, human-based relationship where they generally were helping us to attract this PP and bring it here. For me, this was a no-brainer. That would have been the easy part of the story. However, things were not that simple because I was very naive. I think when you bring the PPEs to UK, for example, there was resistance. There was a government at that time, or the hospitals, on one hand, they need the PPEs, but on the other hand, acknowledging the need of the PPEs was a problem. So, and that is when you really struggle because you know what you need to do, you know what you want to do, but sometimes it's difficult to do it. In fact, the people who really benefit the most were home cares or care homes that they didn't have because they were abandoned, hospitals in the Midlands, for example, that they didn't have. And you realize how it was not as simple as bringing PPEs from China with planes and all this. It was the politically charged of the situation with respect to the PPEs in Europe. Because, and for me, that was struggling a bit because you do things for the right reasons, and then you realize that maybe, oh my God, this is more complicated than you think. But anyway, at this moment, we continue to do that. I have some partners here with Professor Faruqi that we were sharing the space in an empty building in the hospital, and we managed to coordinate all the activities and so on. And also being an academic in a clinical setting helps you because you have more freedom. You can do things that other people may not be entitled to do. I don't know. I don't talk too much about this because obviously it was not something that was advertised. But I feel proud of it, and also that made also that the links with the Chinese were stronger, and the relationship with some of my colleagues here in England, from there changed because went from being professionals under the same roof to really share the experience of that. And I think this has been a good experience at personal level, but also was very challenging in realizing that things are more complex than simply providing PPEs to the community. So anyway, this is an insight that people may not be aware of in some.
Yeah, sure. But thanks for sharing the story. I think COVID time has many lessons for all of us, and I hope we will never have such a thing
So
again.
you were talking about all the new ways of communicating, all this. Actually, I think for me this has been one of the main transformations. Now I can work from wherever I am, and I maintain a network at global level, and we have learned how to communicate through this type of systems. And then you can balance the face-to-face because the human contact is essential, but then you have a hybrid where you can periodically retain the contact and maintain this connectivity, but actually you can be doing something here, being analyzed in a different continent, and by the 24 hour, you have a 24-hour cycle that is working around the clock. And we have been able to expand the capacity of work and also to maintain the connectivity. So I think this is probably one of the positive aspects of increasing the efficiency of your work.
Indeed, maybe we became better in adapting to the changes, overnight changes. So today we can adapt ourselves better, which has been always an issue, especially in the healthcare. So there are lots of lessons to learn from COVID time. But then I really appreciate the stories, what I read about your leadership, about your resilience for this PPE management. It was not an easy day. Everyone knows this. And I'm sure you got additional skill sets from all these challenging times.
Yes. I mean, if also you choose the people that you work with, and they are very complementary to you. I have my own, I'm a bit introvert, so I needed some extroverts to do the noise. And then you assemble a team of people that are committed by the same idea, highly complementary, highly diverse, and also with the same purpose. And that was a very positive experience. I mean, I think for me, also, this gives you the opportunity of people who have never been leaders to take over because there was a different needs for leadership, and maybe the well-established leadership, they were excellent for periods of peace in some way. But when you enter in a very demanding change where you need a different life style of leadership, then that open up opportunities for people who probably were never considered for this type of leadership positions to take over because they were ready and prepared to take over the challenges. So I think that was an opportunity to identify emerging leaders, I would say.
And also another thing what you have utilized was your network. And at the beginning you supported them, and later on you leveraged your network and then got additional support. I think that's something we can also share with the people listening us, and we should emphasize the importance of creating network, maintaining network, and then growing this, right?
I'm fascinated by the concept of network. I mean, in the business school, I learned that managing a network is complex. It requires some skills. You can map the network. You can identify the cost of maintaining the network. You need to decide, because it's not about collecting people. It's about identifying the right size, placing yourself in the right position in the network, and being able to extract the maximum value from this, but also not only for you, because the success of the network depends on the members of the network getting something from it. So in some way, you need to design it in a way that people loyalty to the network is related to the benefit that they get from the network. And it sometimes is very difficult because people become very selfish. They use people. And it's not about using people, it's about working through people. And that is a very different point of view. And I love the concept of the network. As a servant to the network, and you get tons of benefits. And also you can, for example, facilitate the connectivity. You know who should, it's like Tinder of science, right? So you know who need to talk to who, and in some way. And that increases the confidence. I mean, whenever you help a connection, people change the perception about you and you get more opportunities. So I think it's an investment in itself.
I think this is one of the oldest methods of the leadership that we can talk about. And definitely, I mean, networking is important, but I just want to move to the obesity research a bit. And let's discuss first why, I mean, obesity in the metabolic medicine. And then we just want to hear a little bit, I mean, because not all my listeners are the medical professionals. This adipose tissue, maybe you can just touch on it, then we will go to the brown fat together.
Okay. So I think first of all, when you enter in science, you want to have an important question because you invest the same time and energy answering an important question than an irrelevant question. Okay. So the question that we have is we want to know why people who have more fat and are obese, they develop heart problems, liver problems, brain problems. So what is the link between these two? Okay. So it's the link between obesity and cardiometabolic complications. Where I think we have an original approach is that whereas most of the people, they say, okay, this is obese, this is what is happening, we want to see the link. So we address this by looking at paradoxes. We want to know, we focus not on the association, but actually in the paradox of failure to be associated. So we look, for example, why people who are obese remain healthy. So what makes them to be resilient and not falling for the disease. We want to know why there are some people who are not obese and they fall apart, and you see them in the lipid clinic and you think, oh, this guy is a bit overweight, but my God, is insulin resistant, is diabetic, is dyslipidemic, secondary prevention. And you think this guy is inappropriately unhealthy for the degree of obesity, and you always blame the same thing. And then is where Asia comes. Asia is a paradox. In Asia, you have people who are not that obese. If you look at all the maps of obesity, they look pale and they are not obese. But when you look at the heart attacks and the fatty liver and the other complications, then they are at the top. So this is one of these uncoupling. So and our research and the Asians and so on, we are very interested in the concept of uncoupling obesity from the metabolic complications. I mean, you can cure obesity, but if you understand how these two things are coupled, you, without stigmatizing people, you may try to make that the person who is genetically with a tendency to become obese doesn't die from a heart attack, that may have a good quality of life and an enjoyable life. So this is the concept, and which is unique. Adipose tissue expandability, what we say is people who are obese, they have problems not because the fat matter they have, but because the storage capacity is limited. So you can store 60 and you have 70, you are sick. If you are 120, but you can store 140, you are okay. So, and that is a different concept.
It's not just a BMI then.
I think is the mismatch between supply and demand, or supply and the storage. And that helps you to understand the variability in some way. And if you understand this, then you can justify or provide the rationale for interventions that by simply associations you will never think about. So that's where we are going. And we talk about the brown fat. I mean, the brown fat is an oddity. Human beings don't have that much brown fat. Children have brown fat because they make heat. But for me, the brown fat is a vacuum cleaner. So we use it as a vacuum cleaner. The problem of obesity is that the fat that is not stored in the adipose tissue goes to the muscle, to the liver, to the heart, everywhere. So you can lose weight, but you can use activation of the brown fat that, look, what it does is to use sugar and to use lipids. And by activating this, you are sucking up the sugar, sucking up the lipids, and you clean the liver and the muscle and the heart and everywhere, which in some way is, again, to prevent the complications. So that's why we incorporate the brown fat in the question. And I think people understand the concept of a vacuum cleaner, because if you activate the brown fat, your fatty liver improves. And your lipids improve because you have a hole where you put all the energy and you eliminate in the form of heat. So that's the second arm of the problem.
It's good that we have started hearing something other than GLP-1 when it comes to the obesity. Everybody's washed with the GLP-1s nowadays.
Well, I think the main thing about GLP-1 for me is that brings back the interest to the metabolism and obesity as a tractable approach.
Indeed.
I think these molecules make people to lose weight, but the problem, from my point of view, is that we emphasize from the marketing point of view that you lose 25% of your body weight in 2 months, and this is not too helpful. We have never lost weight so fast and so aggressively. Similarities with cachexia is you lose the same percentage in the same period of time, and this is not good. And I feel that GLP-1s may be good, but probably the time frame for their action should be extended, because if not, you lose muscle. And if you lose muscle, you are a middle-aged sarcopenic with no muscle, and then you may really sitting but unable to stand up, which I don't think is a good deal. So that's why I a bit, not a skeptic, because I think it's a good drug, but I think the marketing aspect of it and the money making.
Human being doesn't have patience. Whenever they see something, they want to get it right away immediately. So I just want to jump to another subject. There are lots of people, and I meet with them. They're trying to work with Asian research offices, and they want to communicate with the Chinese colleagues. And there are lots of things happening on the other side, and the access to the technology for these colleagues is much easier than what we have here. And there might be definitely much faster implementation on research projects and others. So what do you recommend? How can people work with these offices, and couple maybe hints how to work with the Asian research offices?
I think I find in my environment skepticism about working there. And I find that many of the skeptic individuals have never experienced the relationship there. So that is very important, I think. At personal level, I work in an area which is not sensitive. I'm not working in physics. I'm not working in nuclear war. We are working in not even in viruses. We are working in non-transmissible diseases. We are working in obesity, diabetes. These are things that they suffer. Also, they have something that we need to account, which is they are suffering very actively the problem of aging, which is going to affect everyone. And the combination of these non-transmissible with aging is the nuclear bomb. That is a real problem. But on top of this, they have the possibility of a scale. So they are looking for solutions at a high scale level. And I feel that learning from these efforts may feed what is going to happen in Europe, particularly, where we are getting old very fast. And also the way they address diseases or at a larger scale with, I'm very impressed how the medics in China, they deal with 60 people from the rheumatology clinic with very complex autoimmune diseases, and they do a really brilliant job, right? So I think I'm very impressed about this, and I think I'm not suggesting that we should think. The other thing is that there is the bias that Chinese, particularly, they are copying everything, assuming that they are not thinking, right? I think this is a totally is not true. You can see that technology there is very powerful. And I think we should be a bit more humble when we approach the interactions. We are not going there to teach them. We are going there to partner with them. And then I think a very respectful interaction with them will take you far. I think that is very important. And the other thing that I find interesting is that, as you said, they, without making any judgment, there are some specific areas of treatments that are advancing at a very high pace. I'm not involved in this because I cannot do it, but I want to know about that. And even when I learn about something that may be potentially relevant, I would like to make sure that some of my colleagues in Europe or United States or somewhere else may be aware of this happening. And I will encourage my colleagues in China to go through the scrutiny of the experts to give some value to that. So that is the way how I'm approaching this. Besides this, I think you need to be culture aware. If you go to China and you go with a contract and you expect that you land there, you sign the contract, you go home and that's it, that's not happening. When you go to China, you go sizing, walking, talking, and you are working at that time. And by the right moment, what you have developed is a personal relationship with them, which is extremely valuable. Once you get into this, is valuable. And then the level of loyalty and commitment, I think, is more than comparable. I think I feel very comfortable about this. So I think you need to invest some time on this.
It's obvious.
And the final thing I would like to say is the concept of the risk and interactions. If someone from Europe wants to go to China, you need to have some partners in China that will help you to land, guide, connect you, and provide the right environment and safety. But if a company from China wants to go to Europe, they don't know how to do it. They need to find the right place. Or if they want to go to the Middle East, they need to find the right place for them to de-risk the interaction. And I feel there is some people in between that you can connect reliable people on the one side with reliable people on the other side, de-risk the interactions. And this may be a very positive relationship there. So I think I am very positive in de-risking interactions. And I think for people who really are culture aware, who are curious about not simply transactional interactions, but actually, you are curious about the culture and the people and what they are after, then that can become possibly, long-lasting interaction and so on. And I'm very keen, for example, in junior faculty, that they have a farther horizon to really engage in these parts of the network, because they could use this for the next 10, 20 years. And my point is that maybe now from Europe, we can go to the United States as we go home. But Shanghai and Beijing and Shenzhen and all these parts, in the next 10 years, people should be able to go there with confidence to stop and to interact there. And
I think it is happening at the moment. I mean, I can see many people ready for that. And also, I'm a believer of diversity. I mean, if we have more different cultures and then different people together, we can gain a lot of different experience and we can create lots of new things out of this. Otherwise, if we get only one color, same thing for the hospital, same thing for healthcare, you will not be able to generate other things, innovation or a better operation. We need all these people to come together.
you want to have a chain, you get clones and robots, and they are all the same and they do what they are supposed to do.
Right.
In my life, we have people from many different places, and they don't adapt to me. I like to adapt to them because that is part of the culture. I can do it more. And then you can see that, depending on the cultural background, where they are coming from, the sense, for example, I need to convince Asians that they can dissent. They can tell me what you're saying is bullshit. And then, and it's not a problem. I want to know that. And then you empower them to express themselves. And you need to invest 6 months to really de-risk for them. And then you need to deal with a sense of individuality and collectivism. Some people are we people, some people are I people. And I say, okay, well, if we have an individual project, I may prioritize some people. If I have a team project, I may prioritize other type of people. And at the end of this, I think you need to deal with respect. And respect goes in two flavors. One is the all respect by being a member of the lab. Okay, so you value them. They are different. They contribute different things, and you want to have all the capabilities to make a team. And then is the earned respect, which is when you promote the individuals to excel, and you need to be able to recognize and support this. And to keep the balance between these two is very important, because obviously you don't want to get the golden boy or the golden girl. But at the same time, you want the high achievers to find the right space for them to shine. And people need to even realize the global benefit that these people provide to the lab in this case. So I think this is, for me, why management and leadership is very important. You need to even I have seen failures in leadership when people are even competing with the people that they even manage, which is saying, yeah, I mean, your credit is coming from something else.
Oh, in everywhere we're seeing this,
So then,
unfortunately.
and that's why I insist that even the people who are at the leading positions, they need to be humble enough to look for more insights and to learn from this. And then they can
Listen
themselves.
Listen others as much as they can. It's a very important thing. And I also say the same thing. Whenever I hire people, I just ask them, look, guys, I mean, how did I hire you? When I was hiring you, I hired you because of you. You were different, and I hired you. Don't change yourself to the others and other things, then you will lose who you were. So your positioning was important. That's why we hired you. Stay as you are, and then we can just continue together, and I can still keep the diversity in my organization.
I think I always suggest that you should not forget your background, because you differentiate here, and then we do group thinking, which is a disaster in science, and sometimes the recombination of the past with the current capabilities results in something which is different, which is where we get our competitive advantage. As I said, we cannot compete in size, and in some groups are, but we can compete in being smarter. And for this, I say, well, we don't need 24 hands and one brain. We need ideally 22 hands and 12 brains. I will not use my hands too much, but I think I need all the brains possible to contribute to that.
I like it very much. Antonio, I think we have already discussed good things, great things, and we can continue with you all day. But there are lots of listeners, especially the young leaders, they are listening me. They are not necessarily the CEO, maybe they're the charge nurses, they're managing the lab, they're the head of physiotherapy, and then there are many people like that. So just before we close, I just want you to share some key advice for these young leaders in healthcare and research.
I think you need to be confident, and you don't want to feel that you retain a unique skill that make you safe. That will make you to be hijacked by your own expertise. So you can disseminate your knowledge, then that will be perceived as high value, and that will give you the opportunity of growing. If you're the only one who knows how to do something, you will never progress, because that will be you will be hijacked by this. So I would say being generous with respect to dissemination of your knowledge, that will be important. And I think you want to, if you are leading, you need to invest time in empowering people so that these people become confident and making decisions. But that means you need to be transparent. You need to provide them with enough background and knowledge that then when they need to make their frontline decisions, they have enough background to make something closer to the right decision. You need to be confident, because people may make different decisions with a good outcome that may not be exactly what you want. So they cannot really interpret you, but you need to be confident about this. And you need to accept that if you want to go far, you need to accept that sometimes will be failure and that sometimes they will not work. So you need to be confident about dealing with that. So I think micromanaging for me is a sign of lack of security and confidence. And I think that for me is what determines the transition from being scared and trying to be safe, to be able to transfer, to really realize that you, for the benefit of the institution or your project or what you're leading, you are empowering everyone around you. And you should not be scared about this resulting in something negative for you.
You just said one thing, you should not forget your background. We should not forget, we're all human beings. We can make mistakes. Even as CEO, you can make mistake and then you can make wrong decision and others. I think the authenticity is very important. We have to share this position with others and we have to let them to comment, criticize, share their feedback, speak up. This way, even the leader will be more stronger. But then if we stop them all, unfortunately, we will just create a very cold environment and you will just be living in your lonely CEO room.
I usually speak the last one because I want to collect insights about this. And the thing is that after listening to everything I need to listen, I may make a decision that may not work for everyone. but I need to be in a position to explain the rationale of why I make the decision so that people feel safe, because there is a procedural justice on this. It's not like an erratic guy who decided, I like this person, I don't like you. No, I think people need to understand that maybe the decision is not going in your direction this time, but there is a reason for that I can be confident to express it. And I may be wrong, but then it's my responsibility. And I think when people feel that you're listening to their points and they feel confident to say, well, I don't understand this, and you can present your rationale, even if they disagree, then they will buy it because they feel confident with the leadership who is driving them. And I think, as I said, even if you don't have to, I will really justify your decisions, because that may help you in the long run to get people to commit to your decisions. You can decide anything you want. Loyal people do not commit your history.
I agree. I fully agree. Thank you so much, Antonio. I really enjoyed this conversation, and it just flew itself. So, I mean, we have covered lots of things. It was really insightful conversation. Thank you so much.
Well, for me, it's a real pleasure, and I really like to engage with your community. I'm very fond of them, and I really enjoyed this conversation. And if I can contribute in any way to your community, I will be delighted to do it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to add comments. And please speak up. The same thing we will also ask you. Share your feedback. And then we will be very happy, to correct the things, to add more subjects. And then we will continue to invite amazing people like Antonio today. Stay curious and stay engaged with the future of healthcare. Thank you so much. Thanks for your listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.